my undefeated gang. Welcome to another episode of Broken But Not Defeated. My name is Judy M, and I would like to welcome each and every one of you for coming back, for showing me love, support, and all those encouragement messages, and they are so well received, and thank you so much. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your loved ones for motivation, for people that may be needing this sort of support, emotional support, encouragement. And yeah, today I want to talk to you about the journey that has brought me here. And in doing so, I just want to say, first of all, I want to thank God. I want to thank God for always showing up in places and situations where I thought it's the end of me, and God has always been there to hold my hand, lift me up, and basically God has just been showing up, man, and I'm just so grateful, and I'll forever be grateful for that. As you can see by the title of this video, I want to talk to you about how I went from being expelled from high school when I was doing Matric, being a teenage mom, dropping out of Varsity, working at retail store, and eventually becoming a lawyer. I know that's a lot to take in, but as I go and tell the story, it will all make sense, and you will see how and the reason why I'm making reference to God always being there for me. First of all, what happened is when I was in Matric, I fell pregnant. I was in a very difficult state of my life. So I lost my sister, right? Before Matric, I lost my sister who was putting me through school. I went to a private school. He was paying for my fees. He was supporting me financially, and I still had my parents, but my sister just wanted me to have a better education than what she had. She passed on. I was very mad. I was very mad at God. I did not understand why, and that led me to being in a situation where I really just don't care what happens to me. When she passed on, I had not even started dating yet, but when it happened, I started dating. So this is in grade 10. I started dating. I started getting to know guys and whatever. And then around grade 11, I met a guy who had lost both his parents, and me and him just got along. We bonded through our pain, and we just hit it off, man. We just hit it off, and everything was just fine. I loosened up around him. I became vulnerable around him, and I did not see anything wrong with how we were bonding and the things we got up to. In Matric, I fell pregnant. One of the days, I think it was a Friday, I was called into the office of the principal, and they asked me if I was pregnant. I don't know who told them that I was pregnant. To be quite honest, I don't know who told them. Up until today, nobody has ever confirmed to me that they told on me, and I did not even tell anybody. Then, except for the fact that the families knew. So families also are related to other people, and also friends with other people that might have told on me, and people that might have been going to the same school as me. So there was this law that was passed that stated that if you in my school, by the way, that said if a girl is pregnant, the girl has to be expelled from school and not come back, right? um when I got to the principal office, they asked me to do the pregnancy test, and I said no, I'm not going to do the pregnancy test. I have my rights, and I would also want my parents to be informed about this decision, my parents to be part of the process, and also for them to give me a written um some sort of like a legal document that allowed me, that forced me to do this test. And they eventually didn't do it because I had a big mouth, and they just didn't do it. And then they said to me, okay, cool, you are not going to do it. On Monday, we want a doctor's letter that confirms that you are not pregnant, and then we will allow you back in school. Okay, cool. During the weekend, I told my parents. They had already been informed by my sister that I was pregnant, so I told my parents that this is the case and this is the situation, and I might be facing expulsion. Okay, my parents were like very stressed out. On Monday, they went to school. They met with the principal, the deputy principal, and they sat down and told them yes. They took me to the doctor, and this is the situation, and they were told that I'm expelled. There's no other chance for me to come back to school. And yeah, and that was like a week before my trial exams. Before I yeah, that was a week before I wrote the trial exams. And yeah, trial exams, you usually here in South Africa, they happen in August, and you write the trial exams, and when you do well in trial exams, it's easier for you to pass your matric. So it's like a preparation of your matric finals. So I stopped going to school that way, because on that same Monday when my parents went to school, I did not even show face. I stopped going to school. I faced the stigma of teenage pregnancy. I faced the stigma of expulsion. I was one of the first um, 5 girls that were expelled in my school since that law was passed. The first girl was expelled before me, and I think I was the third one. Yeah, and then 2 other girls came after me. And on that same year, it did not seem like it's worth living. It did not seem like I'm going to get through it. It did not seem like there was any chance for me. I gave birth to my son. And then after that, I went to the same high school to plead my case, so that I can be accepted back the following year. It was the following year, because I don't have matric and I can't go to university. I can't do anything. I need my matric. They heard me. They gave me another chance to do my matric. I did my matric while I had a little baby at home, while I was going through postnatal depression, and yeah, that happened. Surprisingly, the same year that I did my matric, and all these things were happening to me, and all these emotions were going on, and I did not know how to be a mother to this young boy. But I knew that God trusted me with his life, and I made the best out of every situation and every moment with him. He became the love of my life, and surprisingly, the same year I got an award for being first in grade 12. Yeah, for being the first in math. I got the trophy. It's called Gilfillan Trophy or Gilfillan Award. It was named after a mathematician or something. Um, yeah, after that year, I passed my matric, and then I couldn't go to varsity. The following year, my mom had put me through college. So it's a TVET college. I did my 1 year at TVET college, corresponding with the university that I wanted to go to. So I was doing some of the modules from that university together with the TVET college um, modules to prep me for the university degree. And yeah, a year after that, so now we are like 2 3 years into this. I did my first year in university studying LLB at the age of 21. I started studying the first year, and my dad had to get a loan to get me into school so that I can pay my tuition, my accommodation for the first month, because it had to be deposit and a first month's rent, and then I had to buy all the things that I would need into my room, the bed, the whatevers. So my dad took a loan for that, paid the tuition and whatever. At that time, my mom was working at she was working at a kindergarten. We call it crèche. Yeah, so she was working there, and all her salary. So she was earning so little, so little. Her salary was equivalent to how much my rent was at university. And month end, she used to give me all her salary so that I can pay my rent, and then so it was like 2,000 rand. So yeah, that was how much my rent was for student in that student accommodation. And then to carry on with the month, my dad would send me at least like 500 rands to just buy food and get by. I remember I used to have like cornflakes, noodles, bread. Yeah, when I feel like I need to spoil myself, I would buy sausage. So yeah, that's basically how I used to live. The first year passed by, the second year passed by, and I couldn't do the third year because now on the second year my dad also took a loan again for me to get through school. And now I moved from a student accommodation to a residential area inside of the school, the university. My studies were going well, my grades were very high, I was getting distinctions, everything was well. I was connecting with my son on like using the telephone, everything was good. But on the third year, I couldn't go back. So I had to move from that specific city to a different city. This is the city where I started hustling. So I moved from Bloemfontein to Pretoria. When I got to Pretoria, I started working at a retail store, just to get myself enough financial stability to go back to school. In the meantime, I applied for a distance learning at UNISA. I got accepted. I started studying. When I went to UNISA, I had to start from scratch. I had to start from first year because some modules were graded, some were not graded. So I had to start over. I went through that whole cycle of going to school, going to work, and whatever. Somehow I stopped studying because finances, exhaustion, mental breakdowns, and everything else was taking a toll on my body. And then I went back home. I stayed at home, and while I was at home, I met a guy who happened to be my ex-husband. So me and the guy got it on, and we started a family, and then things didn't work out. I went back to school during the time I was married. I went back to school again. When I went back to school again, the curriculum had changed. Now I had to start the third time. I had to do first year. Had to do first year the third time, first year of LLB. I had to do my LLB again, starting from first year. Very discouraging, and I spoke to my pastor about it. I remember my pastor said to me, by the time you finish with this degree, you will be 30 years. Ask yourself, what is it that God is trusting you with this degree and that particular year? He said to me, Jesus Christ took on his ministry at the age of 30, and at the age of 30 symbolizes maturity. You will be matured enough to take on that role and to see what God has trusted you with, placing you in situations and positions where not everybody can take on, but trusting you because you are the trusted one for that position, because you belong to him. So take that as God knowing the right time for you to be doing something, and that was enough for me to take out this new challenge and go back to school and say, I want to be a lawyer. I want to complete my studies. I want to make sure that I change situations in my life, in my family's life, and I want to be the first graduate in my family. And I went ahead with it. Somewhere along the line, I got divorced with my ex. Well, with the studying, because together we were working in businesses that we had initiated, we had started, and we were making money from. I took my part of the money to put myself through school, and his part of the money would be that one that took care of the family and making sure that everyone is okay, the kids are fine, we are all good and set, right? And then when I got divorced with him, I moved to Johannesburg because I wanted change of scenery, change of everything. So when I got to Joburg, I started working at TakeAlot as a driver. So as a driver, you just get parcels, you take them to, you just move parcels around, you take them from the hub, and then you distribute them to their owners and the people that have bought online. And at night you move from parcels, you go to food, which is Mr. D. So it was one company, and when you do TakeAlot, you do both. In the morning you work with parcels, at night you work with food under Mr. D app. You just switch the apps, and then you go to Mr. D, and then you start fetching orders from restaurants and distributing them to the owners and whatever. That's how I made a living, and that's how I survived. That's how I paid my rent. That's how I made sure that I had food on my table each day. Shortly after that, I stopped working there, and I graduated because I still continued with school. I graduated, became a lawyer, and I went to do practical legal training with the Law Society, and then I got a job at an organization that develops the next African leaders, and that's how everything unfolded for me. Moving from a situation where you had money that was already there, that was always there, and going back after divorce to starting over and trying to make ends meet, and you are also trying to finish your degree, you are also trying to cut the poverty in your family, you are doing all these things, and somehow you feel like everything just has to take a different weird turn in my life before I could even get to the better part of my life. But I'm just so grateful that at the end, God fulfilled his promise to me and I became a lawyer. And with that, I want to encourage you that you can be in a situation where you feel like nothing is making sense, and then you want to like prove a point to yourself, you want to prove a point to those who are looking up to you, and all you need is to be grounded in God. Have faith in your God. Have faith in what God can do to you, because God is God can change a situation in a split second. God can change things in a split second, but you just have to be patient enough to know what God is trying to do, what God is trying to mold on you, taking you through those turns and tribulations and trials and whatever. God is in charge of how everything is supposed to unfold in your life. I just want to encourage you that at some point in my life, I did not see where I was going. At some point in my life, I did not see what was the end goal, what was the end result. But my faith, remember, faith is the things that are unseen but hoped for. So with the little faith, even if it's as small as a mustard seed, you will be able to fulfill your goals and achieve the things that God has put in your life, just by aligning yourself with who God is in your life and trusting in him. So what I want to say to you is, if you know the story of Naomi, I remember I had this conversation with my colleague just a few days ago that Naomi lost everything, left his mother and father's ground. His like she left her mom and father's ground. She left her birthplace. She left her nation and went to another place, because they wanted, her and her husband wanted something different. They wanted to run away and move away from poverty, from the trials, from everything that was happening in their area, and they went somewhere else. And things got very hectic when she got there, because in that moving, in that transition, she lost her husband. She lost her husband, and after losing her husband, her two sons got married to two women that are from different tribes, that are not even from what she knows and understands. And as she thought that was worse, the worst thing happened, and her two sons died, leaving her with these two women that she does not relate to, these two women that she did not understand, that did not come from her tribe. And when she left with these two daughters-in-law, she had to learn to live with those situations, and she went back home. And when she got back home, she still felt that she was not favored. She still felt like God had taken everything that meant life to her. She still felt that she she was not worthy of God's love. She was not worthy of the goodness of God. But in that moment, she did not realize that God was still with her. She lost everything, but God was still with her. When she got back, she had gained everything back. She gained even more than what she had lost. What I'm trying to say with this is that sometimes you go through things, you lose, right? You lose. You have to start that degree 1, 2, 3, 4 times. You lose money in the process. You lose patience in the process. You lose encouragement. You lose courage. You lose your loved ones. You lose your family. You lose your husband. You lose your children. You lose your money, your financial stability. But it is in that moment that you need to go back to where you are grounded. It is in that moment you need to go back to where you belong. It is in that moment you remember who you are in Christ. It is that moment where you remember that going back does not mean that you are a failure. Going back only means that you understand yourself and the mandate that God has put in your life. And once you get to understand that part in your life, that's when you start making these changes, and that is when you start to see what God has put in store for you all this time. You start to see what God was doing in taking and taking and taking and taking from you. Because you wouldn't have a testimony if you were not tested. I'm saying to you today that even when you look back and you see that you feel that God has been unfair to you, but you also need to ask yourself, where is it that God is trying to take you? Maybe you have off-ramped. Maybe you have taken a wrong route, and God is trying to bring you back to the path that He has set for you. It's time to go back. If you had given up on God because of everything that you have lost, go back and try to see what is it that God has been trying to do with your life. Go back and see what God has in store for you. Go back to your starting point. Go back to where you had lost where you have lost or missed the mark. Go back. That's all I want to say to you today. Go back.